Hey friends, this is Dave Hagan. Get a side hustle. That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hey, thanks, Nick. I've got in the studio today, Nick. I've also got my good friend, Brian Reed. Brian, welcome.
Good to be here again, Dave.
Always good to have you. So today we want to talk about the gig economy. We want to talk about getting a side hustle, and everybody's going, what's that? I hear a rideshare company saying, hey, get a side hustle. I'm wondering what that's about. More and more people are doing this, especially millennials. And a side hustle is a side way to generate income, something that you do on the side, some hustle that you do on the side to generate some income on a temporary or a permanent basis. And certainly, ride sharing or being a driver for a ride sharing company is one of those things. People are doing it as a side gig, but they're also starting to think about doing it as a career. People putting together a collection of side hustles, and that becomes their full-time job. And they think that this gives them more flexibility. They think that perhaps people getting paid on a side hustle are getting better pay. Some people are reporting that they're more appreciated at work. Because an employer has a specific need, they're able to go on a website, get someone to come in for a gig on a side hustle, and they appreciate them coming in and helping them out more. This is all certainly made possible by the internet. It's a lot easier to set these kinds of things up on the internet, much more difficult before, and we see that this is starting to grow and grow and grow. So it's an interesting concept. There's sites out there that can help you set that up. There's Instacart, there's TaskRabbit, there's Postmates, there's Lyft, of course, there's Uber. All these different places that are offering opportunities for side hustles, for people to do things on a per-piece basis or come in for a limited time into a business. A lot of restaurants, a lot of retail are bringing people in on a side hustle or for a side hustle on a limited basis. And it seems to make sense for these employers. The employers like it because it gives them flexibility. Especially in California, it's become so expensive to bring somebody in terms of withholding tax and the potential for providing for health care and wrongful termination exposure, workers' comp exposure. Very expensive to bring someone on full time, to say nothing of the training and the long-term benefits and blah, 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 blah. So they bring people in more and more just to augment their core staff, and they're able to expand and contract quicker. It's a cheaper labor market. So it starts to make sense on both sides. The workers like the flexibility. They like a little more pay. The employers like the flexibility of having their workforce expand and contract. How about a couple of examples? Well, some years ago, I published a book, and I wanted some really nice cover art. And someone turned me on to a place called 99 Designs. And I put a description of what I wanted to see, and people from all over the world started sending me designs for the cover, well, actually the cover and the back of the book. Some of them were okay, and some of them were really great. And I was able to choose the last 3, 4, 5 and have a final competition. They would make changes pursuant to my comments. And then you pick the final one that you want, and you buy the design. And I paid, I don't know, $200-300, maybe for the design of a book. If I had brought in an artist and had them do that for me, face to face, that would have been very expensive to do. I think a lot of these designs were coming for places all over the world because designs would be submitted in the middle of the night or early in the morning. It didn't really matter where the design was coming from. The important thing was, how cool was the design? And I think I ended up with a very nice design. And it's now something that we use, and the book still sells on Amazon. People can go there and buy it, called Changing Your Financial Destiny. Very nice little picture, a graphic of a dollar bill breaking up into little pieces. So that's a good example. Fiverr, Fiverr, Fiverr. You can set out a task, and somebody will perform that task. I sent out for a business card on Fiverr, and some designs came back, and you pick whoever you want. We actually picked someone who had submitted a design. We paid them, and I don't know that we used that particular design, but it's very cool to be able to have things designed for you at a very reasonable price. I mean, on Fiverr, you can get stuff designed, you can have stuff written, you can have videos made, you can have music written, you can have some technical kinds of things done. There's all sorts of things that people will do for you on Fiverr at a very reasonable cost. And because they're sitting in other parts of the world, or they're working out of their house at a time when they have availability, the cost is a lot less. The music for our show, for the Financial Wellness Podcast, we got off of the internet. We were able to, buy that at a very reasonable cost, and that's what we've used from day one. Some years ago, I had a website designed. I was using a local company, and their web designer would submit her designs in the middle of the night. I noticed that these emails from her would come in the middle of the night, and I asked him finally. I said, is the designer someone in a different time zone? And the answer was, yeah. The designer was in Southeast Asia. Someone sitting in their house doing their thing, making money, making it work. And we ended up with what I thought was a very reasonable design. So there's all sorts of ways that people can get jobs or short-term gigs, or you can get things designed over the internet. It's pretty amazing. I guess the most basic side hustle, if you will, is Uber and Lyft. It's a way for people to turn time into money. I'll give you an example. I had a relative who just got out of school, just graduated from college, and moved back home with mom and dad while he was starting his first job. And he was working full-time during the day for a tech company, really enjoying it. But then he'd come home, and the evenings were, playing video games in his room or watching TV with mom and dad. Now, the rent was great, and it was good to see mom and dad, but it was, living with mom and dad and get a little slow, get a little boring. So he decided, why don't I just convert some of this time that I'd otherwise be sitting in my room to money? Signed up for one of the ride-sharing services, Uber or Lyft or what have you, and drove around after work. He'd work a couple evenings a week. He would make some money. Of course, he'd put some miles on his car, but he'd make some extra money that he was throwing 100% into his savings. This was a dedicated and thoughtful young man, and he would meet people, and he'd have an opportunity to talk and listen to people. So, this was an opportunity for him to meet several objectives, making some money, meeting people, getting out of the house, not getting under on his parents' nerves, or his parents getting on his nerves. It worked out. So what a great opportunity. What a great opportunity. It's an alternative way, I think, to think about, living, and it's an alternative way to think about your career. I mean, when I was coming up, the model was, hey, get out of school, pick a company, give them 30 years, retire with a nice package of benefits. Hey, that hardly ever happens anymore. Most people have 2.5 careers in their life now. They work for a couple different companies, or they'll work for a couple companies and do their own thing for a while. So it's a different kind of way of looking at how you support yourself, what your career might be. And apparently there's a lot of people out there that are saying, look, I want 2 or 3 or 4 different gigs, and I can turn them on or off when I want. I can go away when I want. I can make extra money when I want. There's a lot of flexibility that goes along with that. So a different way to think about how we support ourselves. That's getting a side hustle and the gig economy. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on the road to financial success. If you'd like Dave to answer any of your questions, email them to dave@davidrhagan.com. If you like the podcast, you can subscribe to the podcast by hitting the subscribe button in your app. You will automatically get a reminder each time Dave uploads a new episode. Or you can use the app to share this episode with your friends and family. Let's listen in now as Dave answers some emails.
All right, so before we start with emails, I want to read an email that we got. It doesn't have a question, but it's a listener who's got some comments. So here's this email. Hi, David. Thank you so much for turning us onto Imperfect Produce. I got it, 3 of my friends got it, and my mom now has it as well. Studies show that people always get 5 to 6 of the same vegetables and miss out on getting other vitamins and minerals from different vegetables and fruits. This is a great way to add new variety and a new source of vitamins to our bodies. I think this really falls into the objectives of the Financial Wellness Podcast. You're getting quality produce at 30 to 50% off, which is great for your pocketbook. If you add all the money that you save in the year, that's a good bit of money to save. If you're still getting all your produce from the market, it's kind of like ordering the black credit card that has the annual fee. Yet you're getting all the benefits. We really enjoy your podcast, and thank you so much for all the information that you're giving to everyone. Signed, Marco. Well, Marco, thank you for taking the time to send us an email and say thanks. I know, again, it sounds like we're pitching Imperfect Produce, and we're not. It's just that we think it's a win-win-win-win kind of thing, and I'm glad that you found that it's beneficial to you. By the way, we got our box last week. Gorgeous box of stuff. Oh my goodness, poblano peppers, and we never have made poblano peppers, and we had to go get a recipe.
Nothing ugly?
No,
you didn't get anything ugly.
It was really way prettier than it ever should have been. Maybe they should send me out some ugly stuff so I'll feel like I'm, getting the full impact. But no, it was gorgeous. In fact, I almost took a picture and sent it to you, Brian. It was gorgeous. Maybe do.
Well, you've sent me pictures of the other stuff, so I was like, "Where's my picture?"
That's right. That's right. I know you like that picture of that potato that looked like the back of somebody's head. That was classic stuff.
It had a right turn. I don't know how it's possible for a potato, but it did.
So, Marco, thank you very much for your email. Brian, what else we got? We got some emails with questions?
We do. I think you're going to have some fun with this one. He says, Dear Dave, one of my friends turned me on to your podcast. I really enjoyed hearing you, Nick and Brian, talk about the issues of the days. I especially liked your comments on the black card. Everybody seems to like the black card.
Yeah, that was a big issue, yeah.
So here's my problem, he writes. I've been out of college for 2 years and have an okay job. I live in a small apartment downtown and have a really great car. The payment on the car, however, is really high, about $1,000 a month. But this is offset by the really cheap rent. So the problem is I really don't have any goals. I'm content right now, just working, enjoying my car, partying with my friends. And your podcast talks about 5 steps to financial freedom and setting goals. I really don't have any right now. And should I feel guilty about this, or what should I do? And this is from Richard. Richard is just young, I think.
Richard, don't feel guilty. It's okay. I mean, it's not the same shoe that fits on everybody's foot. You're out of school a couple of years and you're having a good time. And I remember that time. We had a lot of fun, did a lot of fun things, maybe even some things we shouldn't have. But that's part of just getting out of school and not having, all the schoolwork and stuff to deal with. But, enjoy it. Don't feel guilty. But it seems to me, realize that a couple of years down the line.
Yeah, this is a short-term vacation maybe he should be enjoying, and then real world is coming.
Yeah. And, the downside is that, you'll have 3, 4, 5 years maybe of missed opportunity. And you'll maybe later on go, wow, I wish I had got a little serious a little sooner. But that's okay. Water's got to find its own level. And at some point, you're probably going to get burned out on that. I remember I took a year off between undergrad and law school and, made a point to accomplish some things that I wanted to accomplish. And but I also got to hanging out with a group of friends, and we'd go to a beer bar every Tuesday night. And after about 6 months, I looked around and said, "This isn't going anywhere. It's been fun. The beer's been tasty, But it's not going anywhere, and I really got to get back and make sure that I'm signed up for law school and take the next step, because I really wanted to do something or to achieve something. But don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. Enjoy it. Don't get into any trouble. But realize that a couple of years down the line, if you're thinking correctly and you're looking at the big picture of your life, you're gonna want to step back and set some targets out there for you to achieve. Goals sound so trite, but targets, I like targets. It's like a budget. No one wants to be on a budget, but a spending plan. Ooh, that sounds better. I'd much rather be on a spending plan than a budget. But that time will come. Some people do it sooner than later. Some people come out of high school and they got their whole life planned out. That wasn't me. But you're going to want to come up with something at some point, because the last thing you want to do is, be at the end of your life and go, wow, I wish I had got a little more serious sooner. So anyway.
All right, Dave, we got another one here.
One more.
This is from John, and he writes, Dave, myself and 4 friends really want to get a boat so that we can go out on the water on the weekends. Obviously, we're going to have to finance the purchase of this boat. Any thoughts on how to do this?
Ooh.
Oh boy, no. What do they say about the best 2 days of a boat ownership is what, the day you get it and the day you sell it?
Yeah, so true. But you know what? It's a boat. Is it a red boat? Is it a shiny boat? I'm thinking, this sounds really fun. Can I go? No, a couple thoughts. When you got a boat and you're the sole owner, you don't use it all the time. You're not using it hardly one time out of 4. So if you've got some group of friends and you're going to share that ownership expense, and your particular ownership expense fits in with, what you're doing and is an appropriate part of your entertainment budget, hey, I like that. I think that's kind of cool. Couple comments though. To share it with 4 friends, that's a lot of different kinds of people that are sharing the same asset. One's going to want to take their dog and get dog hair in the seats, and someone else is going to want to buff it and polish it and take care of it all the time and feel kind of put out that the dog owner, messes up the boat. So get fewer people rather than more people. Get people that you think are going to be, like-minded to you in terms of how you use the boat and how you take care of it and how you clean it, and what someone's going to do if it gets scratched. I know someone that was in partners with one of his buddies on a boat, and he ran over a submerged rock in Havasu. Almost missed it. It was just right at water level, almost missed it, but, put a big old scratch down the bottom and tore the drive out. And their arrangement was, if you mess it up, you pay for it all on your own. And it was pretty painful for him to have to pay for. But being a good stand-up guy, he did it, and it worked out for them. But make sure that the people that you're with, that you're sharing this thing with, are like-minded people, and that you think you can get along with them in the good times and the bad. Make sure that they're financially responsible enough, because if 3 or 4 people go on a loan on a boat and someone doesn't pay, the others are going to have to step up to the plate. Or if it's just in the name of one person and the other persons aren't reimbursing him, someone could get stuck with the cost of the boat. So make sure that you've got some thought process for that. Make sure that there's adequate insurance, not only in terms of liability, but in terms of fixing the boat. Comprehensive coverage, I believe, is what they call it. If something happens to the boat, and then have an exit plan. You need to have some plan between the partners. What if someone wants to leave? Does that cause the whole thing to be sold automatically? Do the others have the option of buying them out? Do you share equally that buyout, or does one person assume the place of the others if they pay that larger amount? You got to think these things through over several meetings while you're out looking for the big red shiny boat.
Which, of course, would be named the black card.
The black card. I like it. But remember, better than the black card was the gold card. $1,000 a year membership fee.
Or I don't know, is it titanium? I don't know.
You had talked about the Centurion card, remember? And we couldn't find out what that was.
That's right. I was going to go do some research on the dark web. I completely forgot.
Yeah. Brian, Nick sent me an email a couple of days later. He says, I think it's $7,500 a year for the Centurion card. And it's like, does it have a motor? Does it fly? What is it? What does it do?
Is it going to give me a massage?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on with
that?
So.
Yeah. Makes you wonder. But there's people that do that. Surprising to me, but it takes a village. What are you going to say? I don't know. All right, that's all we have time for today. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on the road to financial success. If you'd like Dave to answer any of your questions, email them to dave@davidrhagan.com. Until next week, this is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.